we waited for Mr. Pavlinsky?
I said I'd wait for Mr. Pavlinsky because he's nearby, but Mr. Hyde's in the process of...
Have you reached him to know whether he's en route?
He's going to come to the meeting.
Do we know where he is? I mean, if we waited for one, is it not appropriate that we wait for the other?
I said that I would, I mean,
I understand you want to wait for
appeal
Mr.
the ruling of the
Pavlinsky.
chairman, then you can do so.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we check to see how close Mr. Hyde is and consider waiting for Mr. Hyde. Again,
I did it because Mr. Pavlinsky was on Main Street.
How did you know that?
Because we called. I told you we
Yeah, we
called.
called
all
Mr.
three
Hyde?
legislators. Yes, we called Mr. Hyde. He's at home. He's on his way in.
Chairman, I'd like to invoke Rule 5, please.
Rule 5 is, you need a motion second?
Can someone read us what Rule 5 is, sir?
Mr. Malone, please read Rule 5.
It says, Chairman shall take the chair in each day's session at 7:30 p.m. In the event of non-appearance of the chairman or vice chairman within 5 minutes of the appointed hour, clerk shall call the legislature to order. And the legislature shall select a temporary chairman to preside during the absence of the chairman. So it's basically a 5-minute rule. You start within 5 minutes, or the clerk can be authorized to call it to order and temporary chairman select.
Mr. Chairman, just the point would
Just
be,
a minute. Let him finish.
you've been here, that rule is not applicable.
So
You
the
haven't been absent, you've been here.
I called this meeting to order already.
chairman has already called the session to order.
Let's move on. Ask Mr. Hartman to lead us to the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask you to stay standing for a moment of silence for our veterans. Thank you. Clerk will please call the roll.
Hartman.
Here.
Rose. Here. Schrader.
Here.
Manine. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Hendricks.
Here.
Hyde. Brzezinski.
Here.
Nano. Smith. Bono.
Here.
Ackerman.
Here.
Kaplinski.
Here.
Horst.
Here.
Russell. Shaw.
Here.
Weekly.
Here.
15. I'll ask the clerk to read the notice of special session.
Notice is hereby given, the county legislature, County of Herkimer, will meet in the legislative chambers, County Office Building, Mary Street, Herkimer, New York. A special session of the Herkimer County Legislature will be called for Wednesday, December 12, 2012, 6:30 p.m. Legislative Chambers, County Office Building, Herkimer, New York. The purpose of this meeting will be to consider resolution upon the following matter. 1, making appointment of Republican election commissioner. 2, making appointment of Democratic election commissioner.
The communications received by the legislature and the committees to which they have been referred are listed on the agenda. Does any member of the legislature request to be read? Any to be read? Mrs. Rose.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of explanation. The resolutions, the first resolution 290 that we'll be considering, and I don't know if this is the place to ask for it, but it would be when you call resolution 290. I just want to understand the law as it relates to the filing of certificate and timelines, please.
We can go after that at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll now go forward with resolutions number 290.
That is the Committee on Administration, Veterans Affairs, making appointment of Commissioner of Elections.
This resolution reappoints Kathleen Farber as Commissioner of Elections for the County of Herkimer effective January 1st, 2013. May I have a motion? Mrs. Minnie, second by Mr. Shaw. Any discussion? Mrs. Rose.
I just would ask that that we understand how the law works. It's my understanding that the certificate was filed in October, I believe we were told at the committee meeting, and I don't know how the timelines work if the certificate is filed.
I'll ask Mr. Malone to explain it first, but let the record show that Mr. Hyde entered.
Section 3204 of the election law indicates party recommendations for election commissioners shall be made by the county committee by a majority of votes cast at a meeting of such members of such committee which one is present. Indicates that a certificate of appointment shall be filed in such form and contains such information as shall be prescribed by the State Board of Elections, and further, Commissioners of Election shall be appointed by the county legislative body.
Anyone else? Mrs. Rhodes?
Further, there was a timelines associated with the filing that we were told in committee, something about the certificate being filed in a 30-day. I didn't hear that in what Mr. Malone just read.
If the legislative body shall fail to appoint any person recommended by a party for appointment as a commissioner within 30 days after the filing of a certificate of recommendation with such legislative body, then the members of such legislative body who are members of the political party which filed such certificate may appoint such person.
Mrs. Rhodes?
So is that we're acting on this resolution now because the Republican caucus did not appoint within, this legislature did not appoint within 30 days. So is the individual already appointed? Why is this action of this resolution necessary tonight, or is it moved?
Your legal opinion. I think it's moved if the legislature acts on it, then there'd be no requirement for the members of the Republican caucus to act. If the members of the Republican caucus wished to act, they could do so, but they're not required to. So it'll be the same situation with the Democrat nominee.
So we would understand then that after 30 days, the Republican caucus did not act, there would be a formal way we would be told if they did. Is that proper? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's not what I said, no.
I'm trying to understand. 30 days has elapsed since the filing of a certificate, so I'm trying to understand why this resolution is necessary.
I thought I just answered.
I'm confused by it. Could you go one more time?
Let me say it again.
I'd appreciate it.
Same thing?
Well, I don't know if the same thing. If I didn't understand it,
maybe.
maybe you can phrase it in your legalese that I can understand it.
Okay. It says that if there's a failure to appoint within 30 days, then the members of the legislative body, who are members of the political party which filed such certificate, may appoint such person.
All right, so then the fact that we're acting on this, I guess that didn't happen. That's why we're acting on it. Okay.
Traditionally, we've done this at the end of the year. Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution passes. Number 291.
It's a resolution of the Committee on Administration, Veterans Affairs, making the appointment of Commissioner of Elections.
This resolution appoints Audrey Dunning as Commissioner of Elections for the County of Herkimer effective January 1st, 2013. May I have a motion?
I do.
Mrs. Rhodes, second.
Second.
By Mr. Hartman. Any discussion? Mr. Smith?
Ever since I first heard about this movement to remove the Democratic election commissioner, I've been troubled by about it, and I've been more troubled by the resolution now that I see in the wording of that resolution appears the word proper. Is there any significance in that word being in there? And I certainly hope not, because I have found the present election commissioner to be very helpful in answering my questions at a recent visit to the office during the past election process. She was very courteous and well-informed, and even gave me a printed document to reinforce my concerns. Let me remind you that those employed in this office are Herkimer County employees and paid by all Herkimer County taxpayer dollars. They may be recommended by a political party and not needed confirmation by this body to serve. However, they are the servants of the Herkimer County residents and should treat all that visit the office with the same respect and disregard party affiliation. For that reason, I believe politics should not be interjected into this daily routine. Therefore, I will be voting no on this resolution, not necessarily against Mrs. Dunning, but against the rules that allow someone to be dismissed without cause and be replaced by political reasons. I ask that we have a roll call vote and that all Republican legislators follow my lead on this and vote no. Thank you.
Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Chairman, this isn't the first time that I've heard in this chamber. One time it wasn't in the public meeting that this should not be a political appointment. I'll just point out that the state legislator and the governor decades ago made it a political appointment. It is by definition. I don't know if there is actually a movement to remove someone. There is actually a appointment of a new member. That's the way I look at it. As far as how the public is treated, I have the utmost faith in Mrs. Dunning to treat the public the way they should be in a professional manner. I was county chairman back in the early 90s. I was involved in a little battle over an election commissioner. There was a battle within the party where it belonged. There was a battle in Oneida County between the Republicans. We're battling the Republicans over the Republican appointment. The Democrats were doing the same. The parties were choosing, and that's the way Albany made it. I understand that there, sometimes we do things unconventionally in here, and sometimes in my view against conventional wisdom. But you look at all the press clippings like I did during lunch, and you look at the votes like the unanimous votes a couple of years ago in this body. This, I mean, it's very rare where you're going to have the legislators try to vote against a party appointment. If you look at the qualifications, I don't know what Mr. Smith meant by proper. I think Ms. Dunning is a very proper appointment, a professional, knowledgeable person, and she is an enrolled member of the party, and she's eligible to vote. That's the qualification. I don't know if Mr. Smith found that she did not fit those qualifications. And besides my activity in the early 90s, over the course of 20 years, I was in that room for recounts and election proceedings. And let me tell you, the Republican commissioner, Mrs. Smith, for example, did a heck of a job protecting your party. And we would discuss the various provisions. You'd have a Democrat on the one side, and believe me, your Republican commissioner does what she should do, and part of that is protecting your party's interests and to make sure your party's not getting some illegal rulings. And as far as being political, in the 90s, and I think 80s, the county Democrat chair was the election commissioner for over a decade, I believe. The Republican county chairman was a Republican election commissioner for years. So this is not a new development, that parties pick these positions, that even party chairs were in those positions. The new development is the way this legislator is acting. You guys have a lot of power. In this case, you have none. You can vote it down. You're going to look a little silly to the public. And believe me, they're going to hear about it. They're going to talk about it. You could, but in Friday, I believe the timeline is, Mrs. Rose, Mr. Brzezinski, and I will get together, make the appointment, and you guys are going to look a little silly. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Rose.
Mr. Chairman, I had hoped that this wasn't going to play out this way. I had genuinely hoped
How's
that,
it playing out?
excuse me, Mr. Chairman, go ahead with that.
Mrs. Rose.
I had hoped that indeed it would be a recognition that this is a decision of the Democratic Committee and in turn this caucus. I think that calling a special meeting to do this when the appointment of the Republican election commissioner was on the agenda during the November meeting, and we were told when we were in our caucus that your caucus was pulling Mrs. Farber's appointment. I didn't understand why. When you called a committee meeting last Friday, to discuss the appointment of Mrs. Dunning, there were many comments made in that room, and I think some of them were maligning her character, most definitely. And I asked then, why are we doing this? Because we knew when you pulled the appointment and refused to act on the Democratic Committee's recommendation in November, that there was not 30 days for our next meeting on April 19th. And you indicated in the committee meeting on Friday that you were going to be calling a special meeting of this legislature. And I asked you then, are you calling a special meeting on this appointment? And you indicated, well, there'll be, you looked over to Mr. Wallace and you said, well, there may well be other things on the agenda. Well, we know that indeed there aren't. So we'll have an airing of it. I'm glad you called your special meeting when we paid the mileage to bring people in for the budget hearing. That was fiscally conservative on your part. I do appreciate that. But you know, when you spoke in the Republican caucus, you did make spurious attacks on the character of the person that we've selected, the Herkimer County Democratic Committee.
Oh, Mrs. Rose.
Mr. Chairman,
We
that
have
meeting
executive
was
session.
an executive session.
Mr. Chairman,
No,
I told you in that executive session, it was my intention to leave that executive session, call the candidate, and let her know exactly what you were saying about her. I told you in that
That's
meeting.
between you and her, not the
Well,
public here.
I'm not repeating what those things are, Mr. Chairman, so allow me to complete my statement.
Finish.
And
Although,
please
point of
encourage.
order, because she was not in our Republican caucus, and we didn't discuss it, so I don't know what she.
Well, Mr. Bono spoke on behalf of the Republican
Press
caucus.
the chair, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Continue
Yeah,
on.
point of order.
Mr. Chairman, you spoke on behalf of the Republican caucus and the committee. And I, unfortunately, think,
Kenny,
Mr. Chairman,
Continue.
but the person is selected by the Democratic Committee. And it seems to me that it's just, the frustration is you don't possess the power to block the appointment. I believe there were erroneous and slanted charges leveled against Mrs. Dunning. Mr. Bono, situations where you could use your influence to improve the operations and credibility of Herkimer County government, and I think you're silent. We have, and there were references to her as an attorney, we have attorneys in our county who work in multiple departments. We have attorneys that work in DSS, and those same attorneys work in the DA's office. You have charges against DSS, and they're investigated by the DA's office. It's incredible. That would be a conflict, not the kind of thing that was presented to us last Friday. You might see a conflict in a 15-month investigation. Ask for a special prosecutor. You seem to perceive conflicts where none exist and incapable of recognizing a real conflict. Some of you have been strong advocates for the current Democratic Election Commission.
No, let me, I'm the chairman here, okay? Are you questioning my
You're what?
my qualification
Of what?
of Mrs. Dunning on that day?
No, I think you have every right to your opinion.
That's right, I do.
Absolutely, and allow me to finish and I'll
Well,
also
for
say
you to
this.
slant me that way, I'm not.
I believe the things
I
that you
had-
said were slanted, I said.
And I
still
said,
did.
check into them.
I did.
It's your call.
I did.
It's your call, that's all. And
I
you
did.
checked into them,
I
and you're
did.
good with it, then fine, let's take the vote.
Allow me to complete what I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
Finish.
I'm going to.
But you're not gonna pick on, you're not gonna come back
Some
on
of
me.
you-
I had legitimate gripes.
Does Chairman give you the
Go ahead.
actual pass to just interrupt at will?
Yes.
It does.
Go
My
ahead.
gosh, I bless
That's
you.
why I'm the chairman.
You know, Mr. Smith spoke, and I appreciate that what Mr. Smith spoke about was the support of the individual who will be finishing her term on December 31st. This is a case of someone being appointed for a new term. Your committee, the other day, decided, and I guess the resolutions are so written, that the commissioners now will have a 2-year term. And you presented it, and it's written as such, because it will coincide with the terms of this legislature. So this Democratic Election Committee has appointed someone for starting in January. It is a new term. You know, I know and I believe, some of you said it's good to know that she served you well. I appreciate that because I do think that the current commissioner has served many. She's performed in a satisfactory manner in several areas. There's one among you who has stated that the current Democratic commissioner is the best and most knowledgeable worker in that office in some years. And I appreciate that some of you are concerned about a vacuum of knowledge will exist. I encourage you to give your Republican commissioner time to learn all of the ropes. She has not been there as long. I'm sure the new Democratic commissioner will hit the ground running and be of assistance to all seeking guidance from that office. That's the way it's supposed to be. As Mr. Smith said, there should not be politics, even if there has been in previous terms of the Republican commissioners. The Democratic commissioner will set a standard that your representative and your party should be able to emulate in time. Your caucus questions that which is the right of the Democratic Party. It is your right to question, Mr. Bono, and everyone else in this room, but it is their right to choose. It isn't lost on some of us that you seem to cloak what I believe to be the motives and a voice of concern for the choice, and that's ironic. Because this concern comes from the caucus that you spoke on behalf of at the meeting, that chose Mr. Pizik, the chairman of the IDA, to be the Ethics Committee reference. You chose, and we're concerned about that, you chose a caucus that has consistently shut the door on debate and the open airing of taxpayers' information. You're a caucus that has convened non-committee meetings
Point of order
in a way that
regarding
you elected
how is this
representatives.
germane?
Allow me to quote, all right, what,
Let
summary,
me call a
summary.
point of order. How is this germane to
My point.
It is
It's
about
not germane.
judgment. You called into judgment the Democratic Committee, Mr. Chairman, and you
I said,
suggested.
look into it, and
You
if that's
said-
what
you
you wanted,
suggested
then I'm
we should
fine
be
with it.
embarrassed.
You're slanting my words.
Mr. Bono,
I
you
said, look
questioned.
into it, and if that's what you want, then fine.
You know,
I'm good with it.
I'm going to
I'm
loosely
good with
quote
it.
scripture. Pull the log out of your eyes when you're going after the sliver in theirs. Mr. Bono, you questioned whether the Herkimer Democratic Committee might want to reconsider their candidate. The Democratic Committee chairperson has assured me that they have the utmost confidence in their candidate and remain steadfast in their choice. And I caution you to be aware just how your actions will be perceived tonight. Mr. Bono, I don't know if you have aspirations of assembly person, but petty politics will not fly in this county. Thank you.
No, I don't. Mr. Russell.
Chairman, I'd like to clarify my vote. If I'm being threatened, I'm going to now vote no.
Threatened.
Anyone else? Mr. Hedner.
I'd just like to point out that I'm hoping whatever the results of this tonight, and with a new appointee coming in and like that, I just hope that after reading Judge Siegel's letter of the cooperation we had in that office during the last election, I hope that continues and we get some capable people and bipartisan, non-political, as Judge Siegel mentioned in his statement. And I for one really appreciate that letter from him.
Anyone else? Roll call vote. Roll call the roll.
Mr. Hartman.
Yes.
Rhodes.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Manine.
No.
Johnson.
Yes.
Hendricks.
Yes.
Hyde.
Yes.
Brzezinski.
Yes.
Smith.
No.
Bono.
Yes.
Ackerman.
No.
Kaplinski.
Yes.
Corse.
Yes.
Russell.
No.
Shaw.
Yes.
Weekly.
No.
Resolution passes. Being no further business, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Hyde, second by Mr. Johnson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?